My name is Joe Outlaw. I'm an Ag Policy Specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. This is the Farm Policy Minute, and we have with us today Scott Reed from Texas FSA. He is tell me what he is. I always forget.
I'm the Division Chief for the Commodity Compliance Division.
So basically, we're here to talk about getting signed up for farm programs. That is specifically the ARC and PLC choice that you have that has to be made coming up pretty soon, right?
March 16th is the deadline.
Okay, and with regard to, there's been some confusion that people think they have to make ARC, PLC, we could talk about what those are, but those decisions and the yield update, when is that one going to be made?
So March 16th is the deadline for a producer to make their program elections of either ARC or PLC for the 2019 and 2020 program years. Producers actually have until September 30th to complete a yield update if they would like to. Okay,
so what's a bit confusing is we're signing up for this program for 19 crop year that's already passed in 2020. And so I know you just said it, but let's just make sure we're clear so that producers are clear. When is the sign up for 2020 ARC and PLC?
Well, for 19 and 20, producers are making a one-time election that is applicable for both 19 and 20. And then there's separate program deadlines for signing up. Sign-up deadline for 2019 ARC PLC enrollment is March 16th. Sign-up deadline for 2020 ARC PLC enrollment is June 30th.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, as a producer, if you would like, you can do all three at one time, but you're not required to. A producer can always come in, sign up, make his elections for 1920, sign up for 19, and come back later and do 2020 if he wants to. But he is able to do all three at once if he likes.
The main thing I think is that I may have tried to confuse you or try to confuse the listeners here, but when we normally have program sign up every year, and that's no different here, and so you had gone through that. So with regard to getting these programs done, how are you ready right now, or is there something where they need to wait until closer to the deadline?
No, we strongly encourage producers to contact our offices now to schedule an appointment now for the March 15th program election and sign up. It is critical that you get that done by March 15th, because if a producer does not make an election by March 15th, then the farm will default to his previous program elections and they will not receive a program benefit for 2019. They're still eligible to sign up for 2020 and receive a program benefit for 2020 if they sign up by that June 30th deadline. But if you miss the March 15th deadline, then there is no program benefits to be received.
Right. So maybe we should just briefly go through. Everybody uses ARC and PLC as the acronyms for much longer words. So price loss coverage is price protection. If the marketing year average price is below the reference price, generally there's going to be a payment.
Yes, sir.
And paid on 85% of the base and those things like that. ARC stands for agriculture risk coverage. A little bit more complicated. It is a revenue plan, uses a 5-year moving average, a price of marking your average prices, and a 5-year moving average, Olympic average of county yields as well. And we're going to get into ARC-IC in a minute, but those two are the ones where people are kind of saying those are the primary choices when you talk about decision aids. I know that Texas A&M, we have a decision aid, and we'll talk more about that in a bit, but we have people standing by to help working with people right now on this. I know that University of Illinois has a decision aid, as well as a number of other land grants have decision aids, but the only ones I point people to is Texas and Illinois, because we know that we got all the information from FSA in Washington for all the plugs, all the yields, and they checked our tools before we put them up online. So other people may have done a great job with theirs, but I can't say anything about whether they were done correctly and have all the correct data imported into them. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
All I would say on the decision tools is that when you come in to make your program election, we strongly encourage you to go ahead and have your decision made prior to your appointment of which program you want to elect, so that when you come to FSA, you're using your time the best that you can of making your program election, updating your yield, and enrolling. And so we really encourage you to use the tool resources that are available to you to help make the best program decision that's best for your individual operation.
So I know that we've been doing this quite a while now, and sometimes I forget, since I've been doing it so many years, is that who makes these specific decisions? Is it the landowner, the tenant, or both?
So on the yield update, that is a landowner's decision. So the landowner has till September 30th to update the yield if they desire to do so. Updating a yield after the contract has been enrolled will not cancel the contract. Your contract is still valid if you have a valid contract by the enrollment deadline. As for the program election, that is done by all producers that are sharing in the base acres of the farm. Everybody that has a share of the base acres, the cover commodity that is planted, are the ones that make the program decision of either PLC or ARC-CO or ARC-IC.
Right. And so we live in a time where most of the producers that I work with would have had a power of attorney signed and given with their producer. So in that situation, who does what?
So as a producer, if you come in and, as I talked earlier, you can do all three activities at one time, making your election, enrolling, and doing a yield update. That works is if you're the owner operator of farming, you're the landowner, so that you can do the yield update as a landowner and also make the program elections as the operator. But if you do not have power of attorney to take landowner action, then it may not be able to do all three at once. You may have to actually send it out for signature and come back in. As I said, the landowner is the one that makes the yield update. The operators that are sharing in the base acres are the ones that makes the program election.
So when one of the things that happened in this Farm Bill round, I didn't think the choices were going to be that difficult with the marketing year prices the way they look. The decisions look like they're going to be a little bit easier to make up until, because we're doing this after the fact. There's been a lot of preventive planning around the country. ARC individual is something that probably nationwide under the 14 Farm Bill didn't get 5% of the base acres, I don't think, and that's just a guess. But now, because of the preventive plant, it is something that people across the country, if their farm was 100% preventive plant, is something that at least need to consider a little bit more strongly. Do you have anything to say about that?
I would strongly encourage you to use the decision tools that are available through Texas A&M, the University of Illinois, or the other land-grant universities that have tools to help you make a decision. It's a very important decision to make, and use all the resources that you have available to help you make that determination.
Right. Just one thing I would say is that we are running. For any producer across the United States can call us, and we will help them as much as we can. If they are just needing questions, that's pretty easy. But some folks are not. They're just sending us their records, and we're going ahead and putting it in for them, and then we have to go back and forth and call and explain what the results are. We don't tell them what to do, but we explain the results, and they have to make that decision. It appears to be going very well, but we're finally getting enough producers. They're starting to think about this process that we're getting behind. With that, the choices of ARC and PLC, most people think about PLC, the price loss coverage, price protection. ARC is more revenue protection, but it has a smaller band of protection. One thing that needs to be pointed out is that some of the crop insurance interactions, specifically in the Midwest, I've been doing a lot of meetings there. Most people went ARC County last year last Farm Bill for their choices, and they didn't really think about the fact that they could also purchase supplemental coverage option, which is only available if you pick PLC. And so I've been doing a lot of meetings in the Midwest as well, and having to go through the interactions with crop insurance. And I know there's one that we want to talk about here with stacks as well.
Yes, sir. As a producer for 2019, your insurance decisions have already been made. You've already done that. That 2019 crop has already been harvested and over with. And so if you had stacks coverage for 2019, you're not eligible for ARC PLC for 2019, is what the law says. Now, when a producer comes in for FSA, we will enroll whatever the producer tells us to enroll, but the rule is you cannot have both. And so, as a producer, please be aware of what the rules are.
Right. I've had a lot of those questions, and the law actually reads that you can't be in both, but basically the ARC PLC decision, in my mind, reads it's the dominant decision, and you've got to adjust your crop insurance accordingly. So I'm not speaking for FSA. I just know that when people ask me, which we get a lot of those questions, the law's pretty clear in this point. You're not going to get both for this year or any time in the future.
Correct. You cannot have both stacks and ARC PLC for 2019 or for future years.
All right. So with this question about ARC and PLC, do you have an example you can kind of talk us through?
So as a producer, you're still able to make a program election for seed cotton if you have stacks insurance. As a producer, what you're going to do is, if you already had stacks coverage for 2019, when you make your program enrollment for 2019, and for example, your farm has both corn and seed cotton base, you can still make your program elections for both corn and seed cotton. You would come in and enroll your corn base with FSA for PLC or ARC County, whichever one you chose. You would just not enroll your seed cotton base. That way you're able to retain your stacks payment that you've already received from crop insurance.
So if they mentally want to go with PLC, there is an option, or do you know of an option with crop insurance to cancel that policy at this point?
I cannot speak on behalf of RMA.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know either, but I would assume that something has to be done there. One other thing that we need to talk about is where can they get help? I can obviously give our website is www.afpc-tamu.edu. You go there on the front page, it says 2018 Farm Bill Decision Aid. It's pretty simple. But where's the USDA's website that they could get access to decision aids at?
So you can go to www.fsa.usda.gov to find out more information on ARC PLC, and there's also links on that website to the decision aids for Texas A&M and the other universities as well.
Great. Well, the last thing I want to say is that when people are questioning this, I do get a couple of questions about why do we have to make these choices. I want to make sure that people that are listening to this know that this Congress gave you this opportunity. FSA is carrying out their jobs and helping you get signed up for them. It's also not your job to make those decisions for them. And please don't put those people at the county office in that situation, because that is not something where they're supposed to be helping make those decisions. If you need help, turn to your land grant. You can turn to us, and we'll help as many people as we can between now and March 15th. But I can tell you that there's a lot more people that want to get free assistance from us than we probably have time to do. But because we're working, and we have a log, and we're about 2 days behind now, and that's not bad yet. But as we get closer to sign up, we know people are putting it off, and we want to get them to hurry up and get on with it. And I want to make one last point for sure. If they come in tomorrow and they make the choice, they can come back and change that along the way before March 15th.
You can change your program elections for 2019 and 20 up until the March 15th deadline. And I would also like to make clear that starting in 21, 22, and 23, you're able to update your program elections each year going forward. So these tools and resources available to you are something that you really need to look into utilizing.
Because I've had a number of people say, well, we'll know more information closer to March 15th, and my answer is we'll know a little bit more on the price side, but the fact of the matter is I don't believe we're going to know what the county yields were. If you're waiting on that information, you're pretty much just waiting for nothing. So in my opinion, having done this a long time, I would go in and make the decision and keep running the tools as we get closer to March. And if some price change happens, we will send an email out and say, hey, you need to run this decision again. But the fact of the matter is they're probably going to stick with that decision, but they'll have the opportunity all the way up until the 15th to change.
Yes.
Right, thank you. Anything else we need to visit about?
One thing I'd like to make sure we're clear on is that the yield update, the deadline for that is September 30th. And if you update a yield after you've ran your ARC PLC contract enrollment, the contract is still valid. You do not have to come back in and redo the
Okay.
contract. So.
Good. And with regard to the yield update, I do get the question about what's good evidence, and it's same as in the past. Crop insurance is kind of preferred records, right?
Yes.
But
For FSA on a yield update, it's a producer certification. If you're pulled for spot check, then that's when you would have to provide records to us to show
Okay.
the yield that you provided.
Are there any other things we missed that's really important for this sign up?
I think we pretty well got it all. March 16th is the deadline, and we really need for you to contact our offices and make an appointment before then.
Thanks a lot, Scott.
Thank you.